Hi, my name is Shadi Abu Zahra. I'm the Accessibility Strategy and Technology Specialist at W3C, the World Wide Web Consortium. And today, I'd like to tell you about web accessibility. The web is for many people an essential part of daily life, at work, at home, and on the road. Web accessibility means that people with disabilities can use the web equally. For example, somebody who cannot use their arms and uses a mouse stick to type, or someone who cannot hear well and uses captions to watch videos, or someone who cannot see well and uses a screen reader to read aloud what's on the screen. Accessibility has many benefits. For example, captions benefit anyone in a loud or in a quiet environment, and good color contrast works better when there's glare. Also, people with age-related impairments, such as reduced dexterity, benefit. In fact, everyone has a better user experience with an improved layout and design. A lot of accessibility can be built into the underlying code of websites and applications. Web technologies from W3C, such as HTML, provide support for many accessibility features. W3C provides standards to help make the web accessible, which are internationally recognized by governments and businesses. Most well-known is the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines, WCAG. WCAG is also ISO standard 40500 and adopted in the European standard called EN 301549. It is built around 4 core principles. First, perceivable. For example, so people can see the content or hear it. Operable. For example, so people can use the computer by typing or by voice. Understandable. For example, so people get clear and simple language. And robust, so people can use different assistive technologies. There are over 1 billion people with disabilities, or around 15 to 20% of the population. The UN Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities defines access to information, including the web, as a human right. Yet, regardless of any laws and regulations, implementing the accessibility standards is essential for people with disabilities and useful for all.
Keyboard compatibility. Not being able to use your computer because your mouse doesn't work is frustrating. Many people use only the keyboard to navigate websites, either through preference or circumstance. Whether it's temporarily limited mobility, a permanent physical disability, or simply a broken mouse, the result is the same. Websites and apps need to be operable by keyboard. Text-to-speech.
Some people can see the text on the screen. Fortunately, computers can convert text to speech.
It's technology that many people who are blind have been relying on for years. But it's also important for many people with dyslexia, and very useful for people with difficulty reading text, as well as some people who just like to multitask. But for this to work, websites and apps have to be properly coded, which has the added benefit of helping search engines index websites' contents better. Clear layout and design. Poor layout can be very frustrating. And the same applies to the web. Good design involves good layout, and that means a better user experience. This includes clear headings, navigation bars, and consistent styling. Any web user will get frustrated with bad layout and design. Complex layouts also make finding information difficult or impossible for people with visual disabilities. And they are confusing for people with cognitive and learning disabilities who need clarity and consistency of the presentation. Bad design also impacts anyone who isn't particularly confident around computers. Notifications and feedback. Without clear notifications and feedback, people are quickly disoriented and confused, especially error messages, which are often complex and confusing. Yet making them understandable is usually quite simple. Making websites and apps predictable and understandable makes them accessible to people with cognitive and learning disabilities. and more usable for everyone, especially for people with lower computer skills. Large links, buttons and controls. Trying to hit a small target requires lots of effort. Many websites and applications try to thread the needle. But on the web, we can make areas for clicking and tapping larger and easier to use, which is handy on mobile devices, especially when we might be moving around at the time, which is critical for people with reduced dexterity.
Colours with good contrast. There's something about great design that allows it to go practically unnoticed. But it doesn't take much to make things confusing and frustrating. Choosing colours with poor contrast makes navigating, reading and interacting a real pain. Good design means sufficient contrast between foreground and background colours. That's not just text and images, but links, icons and buttons. If it's important enough to be seen, then it needs to be clear. And this is essential for people with low contrast sensitivity, which becomes more common as we age. With good colours, websites and applications can be easier to use in more situations, like in different lighting conditions. Understandable content. Instead of saying, to postulate a conceit more irksome than being addressed in sesquipedalian syntax is adamantine, it is better to say, being spoken to in unnecessarily long and complicated language is a pain. Yet many websites lack structuring, using headings, lists, and separation. Or they use overly complex language, jargon, and unexplained acronyms. It makes them difficult and unappealing to use for many people, including non-native speakers, and makes them unusable for people with cognitive and learning disabilities. Video captions. Video isn't just about pictures, it's also about sound. Without the audio, you'd have to guess what this film is about. Frustrating, isn't it? Not knowing what's going on. That's the situation for everyone who can't hear. Captions make videos accessible, which is also handy for people who want to watch video in loud environments, or where you need to be very, very quiet.
Web accessibility. Essential for some, useful for all.